Let me start by saying something that I think a lot of people forget when they watch this show. Most of the people on Love After Lockup had already been through more pain by the time they were 20 years old than most of us will ever experience in a lifetime. And Brittany Santiago is one of those people. But what makes her story different from almost everyone else who has ever appeared on this franchise is that her story doesn't end in tragedy. It doesn't end in another arrest, another relapse, another mugshot. It ends somewhere that nobody would have predicted when they first watched her walk out of those prison doors. But to understand where she ended up, you have to understand where she started. And where she started was about as dark as it gets. Britney was born into chaos. Her parents were both alcoholics and drug addicts, and the home she grew up in was not a safe place. She has said publicly that there was a lot of trauma in that house, a lot of pain that nobody talked about and nobody ever addressed. By the time Britney was 12 years old, she made a decision that would shape the rest of her life. She ran away from home. 12 years old. Not a teenager trying to be dramatic. A child who genuinely felt that the streets of Las Vegas were safer than whatever was happening behind those doors. And that tells you everything you need to know about what her early years looked like. What happened next is something Britney has been very open about, because she turned it into a book, into advocacy work, into her entire public identity. When you are a 12-year-old girl living on the streets of Las Vegas with no money, no family support, and nowhere to go, you become incredibly vulnerable. And the people who find you in that state are not good people. Britney was taken in by groups of adults who knew exactly how old she was and used that to manipulate her. They introduced her to methamphetamine. She has described the first time she used meth in her memoir, One Woman's Journey, Surviving the Streets, in a way that is genuinely heartbreaking. She said she did not like the way it made her act, but she liked the way it made her feel, and that was the problem. When you are a traumatized child who has never felt safe and never felt loved, a drug that makes you feel nothing, that numbs all of the pain, is incredibly seductive. She got addicted fast. And once you are a young girl addicted to meth on the streets of Las Vegas, you will do almost anything to stay high. By 15 years old, Britney was pregnant. She was still essentially homeless, still addicted, still surviving on the streets. She gave birth and was pregnant again within 2 years. By the time CPS got involved, she had 2 young children that she was in no position to care for. Both of them were placed for adoption. She has tattoos of 2 names on her forearms that many fans believe are for those children. She has never fully confirmed that publicly, but it is one of those details that sits with you long after you watch her story. The loss of those 2 children, combined with the weight of her addiction, sent Britney into an even deeper spiral. She ended up caught up with the wrong people in the wrong situation. And at 18 years old, she was arrested for the first time, her first prison sentence. She came out of prison in 2013 believing she had turned a corner. And for a moment, it genuinely looked like she had. She completed a post-incarceration job placement program within 1 month of her release. She posted on social media that she felt like she was seeing the world with new eyes. She was building something. She had a son, Giovanni, with a man named Tito. She was getting her life together. And then the addiction came back. That is the brutal truth about methamphetamine dependency. It does not care how hard you worked or how sincere your intentions were. She relapsed. She got caught up in a situation involving a robbery attempt, conspiracy charges, and she ended up back in prison in 2017. Her son Giovanni went to live with Tito while she served her second sentence. Here is where the story takes the turn that most people know, because this is where Marcelino Santiago enters the picture. Marcelino was not an inmate. He was a free man, a poker player from Las Vegas, and he had reached out to Britney through a pen pal program for incarcerated individuals. Now, let's be clear about what that is. A grown man choosing to write romantic letters to a woman in prison. When the show first aired, fans absolutely dragged Marcelino for it. He came across as controlling, as intense, as someone with a savior complex who wanted a woman who would be dependent on him. Those criticisms were not without basis. He was very particular about what he wanted Britney to look like when she got out. He was particular about her associations. He had strong opinions about everything, and he made those opinions known. But here's the thing that complicated that narrative. When Britney walked out of prison in 2018, Marcelino was there, and he did not just show up for cameras. He showed up consistently. He helped her fight for custody of Giovanni. He stood by her through a custody battle that involved Tito failing drug tests for methamphetamine and amphetamines, which resulted in Britney being granted emergency sole custody of her son. Marcelino proposed to Britney on the Las Vegas Strip, and they had a wedding that summer. Except that wedding was not actually legal yet, because it turned out Marcelino had been previously married and had applied for an annulment just 2 months before the ceremony. The annulment was not granted until October, so they did not officially become husband and wife until December 27th of that year. That little detail, predictably, caused enormous drama among fans who felt like Marcelino had hidden a whole marriage from Britney. But by the end of Love After Lockup Season 2, Britney was pregnant. They welcomed a daughter named Zoila, then a son named Marcelino Rebel. 3 children total in the home, counting Giovanni. They bought a house in Las Vegas. Britney got her real estate license and started working as an agent. She published her memoir. She became vice president and head of marketing at a nonprofit called After Orange, which helps formerly incarcerated people reintegrate into society. She was doing everything right. She was the success story, the one everyone pointed to when people asked whether Love After Lockup was actually helping anyone or just exploiting them. Brittany Santiago was the answer. She was the proof that it could work. And then, Life After Lockup Season 4 happened, and everything fell apart on television in the messiest possible way. Now, some context is important here. By this point, Britney and Marcelino had been through multiple seasons of the show together. Viewers had watched their relationship evolve and grow, and face challenges. There had always been tension around Marcelino's controlling tendencies and Britney's independence. There had always been moments where fans felt uncomfortable watching how he spoke to her, how he micromanaged her associations, how he decided who she was allowed to be friends with. He was particularly hostile to any of her connections from her incarcerated past. He did not want her spending time with people who had been in prison, which, given that Britney's entire community was built around those people, created ongoing friction. And then Britney made a decision that she has publicly said she regrets. She invited her former prison bunkie, a woman named Amanda, into their relationship for a threesome. This is a decision that she initiated. She has made that clear. She was the one who suggested it. She was the one who arranged it, and she believed at the time that it would bring her and Marcelino closer together. What actually happened was the opposite. After that night, Marcelino began pulling away from Britney. He became distant. He stopped being engaged in the relationship. And Britney, who had welcomed this woman into her home and her bed, began to feel something was deeply wrong. Then, it came out that Marcelino had been sending Amanda explicit photos of himself and requesting photos in return, behind Britney's back, with her former best friend, with someone Britney had trusted enough to invite into the most intimate part of her life. When Britney confronted Amanda about this, Amanda did not tell her everything at once. She dragged out the truth in pieces, which made the betrayal feel even worse because Britney had to keep pulling information out of someone who was supposedly her closest friend. Eventually, Britney confronted Amanda in a parking lot outside her workplace. The confrontation turned physical. Britney punched her and shoved her to the ground. Their friendship was over in that moment. But it got worse. Britney also discovered that Marcelino had a hidden Instagram account. She went through that account and found that he had been requesting to follow someone who appeared to be a sex worker. She also found evidence that he had been browsing adult websites and engaging in online chat rooms. The man who had built himself up as Britney's savior, the man who had judged her associations and told her who she was allowed to spend time with, was sneaking around on secret social media accounts looking for encounters outside their marriage. The hypocrisy of that was not lost on anyone watching, and it was certainly not lost on Britney. She lost it on him completely. She told him he would be alone and miserable without her, just like he had been before he found her. The season played out with the two of them in couples therapy, both of them crying, both of them seemingly committed to working things out. And here is where it gets complicated because the fan base was split right down the middle. A huge portion of viewers had absolutely zero sympathy for Britney. The argument was that she had opened the door to Amanda herself, that you cannot invite someone into your marriage and then act shocked when your husband develops feelings or pursuits outside that marriage. That Britney had created the situation, and those viewers were vocal about it on social media. "No one feels sorry for you" was a comment that got thousands of likes. You opened that can of worms? Now look, that kind of energy. But another group of viewers pointed out that there is a difference between a consensual shared experience and then going behind your wife's back to send intimate photos to that same person without her knowledge. Those are two very different things. And the hidden social media account, the secret chat rooms, those had nothing to do with what happened between the three of them. That was Marcelino doing something deceptive entirely on his own. So the debate raged on for the entire season. What made the whole situation even more confusing was that during filming, which showed them seemingly on the brink of divorce, Brittany and Marcelino were posting happy photos together on Instagram, a family outing in Las Vegas, hotel balcony selfies, content that made absolutely no sense if you believed the show was capturing their real relationship in real time. Fans started openly asking whether the whole storyline had been manufactured for television, whether Brittany and Marcelino were faking the drama to stay relevant and keep their WeTV paychecks coming in. It is a question that has never been fully answered. What we do know is that the drama was not entirely fake, because there is evidence that Marcelino actually was texting other women. Screenshots emerged from an Instagram blogger that appeared to show text messages between Marcelino and a woman he had been communicating with, where he admitted he had made mistakes and asked her to understand that he would not be able to continue contact with her. That suggests something real had been going on beyond what was staged for cameras. The couple moved from Las Vegas to Florida, and for a while, they went quiet. Britney threw herself into her real estate career and her nonprofit work. She reconnected with a long-lost daughter from before her first prison sentence, a deeply emotional reunion that she shared with fans. She kept building the life she had promised herself she would build when she was sitting in a prison cell, writing letters to a man she had never met in person. And for a period of time, it genuinely seemed like they had survived the worst of it. But, as of the most recent updates, Marcelino himself has confirmed that he and Britney are still separated. They are not together. They are co-parenting their children. Britney has acknowledged that their paths have diverged, while also being clear that she sees him as a good father. She has continued to grow her professional career. She has continued her advocacy work. She remains one of the most followed and most recognized faces from the entire Love After Lockup franchise. And here is what I keep coming back to when I think about Brittany Santiago's story in its entirety. She ran away from home at 12. She was addicted to meth before she was a teenager. She lost 2 children to the system. She went to prison twice. She came out the second time and built a real estate career, wrote a book, ran a nonprofit, raised 3 children, and became a role model for formerly incarcerated women across the country. And then her marriage fell apart in one of the messiest possible ways, publicly, on television, in front of millions of people. And even after that, she did not relapse. She did not disappear. She did not become another cautionary tale. She kept going. Whether you think Britney made every right decision, whether you think the threesome storyline was real or manufactured, whether you think she got the ending she deserved in that marriage, the fact remains that this woman rebuilt herself from circumstances that most people would never recover from. She is complicated. She has made serious mistakes. She has also shown a level of resilience that is genuinely rare. And that is why, years after she first appeared on our screens, people are still watching, still talking, and still deeply invested in whatever happens to Brittany Santiago next.